I just said that I don't know what it is, but this is my tournament this year. I'm going to win this tournament.
Most athletes hope they'll win. Darryl had already decided he would.
Sort of don't like saying this because it makes me sound really cocky, but I'd actually made a space in the cabinet for the trophy.
Before the tournament even started.
Like I told my dad, I said, just move that because the trophy's going to go there. When it'll look nice there, you know.
Then came the moment that tested that belief.
I'd fallen out of love with the game of snooker when I came off the tour. It's like I'd had enough, you know. I was just waiting for that season to finish and to stop playing.
Then everything changed.
I don't look back too fondly on it. That's one regret, to be honest.
This is Darryl Hill.
Hello humans, welcome to the M-Word podcast, brought to you by Martin, that's me.
And Matt.
That's him, Martin. Need to go to an education coach. Darryl, thank you for joining us today.
No problem, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. We've got quite a bit of a range of sport to talk about, but let's start with snooker. Be honest, I suppose from my side, I've never really played snooker, played pool, not played snooker, so we can get maybe into some technical aspects of snooker. But what surprised me, and actually only reading today on BBC, is it 14 or 15-year-olds just gone through one of the qualifying rounds for the Crucible, for the World Championships, which I think is the youngest ever to get to a first qualifier. Is he 14? Yeah, I think he's 14.
I think, yeah, he might have turned 15 recently, I think.
Yeah, which is...
He's 15.
I guess and you started sport, I think you started at about 10, is that right?
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing that struck me when I heard you start at 10 was, had you reach over the table, I guess? Because they're big old things, aren't they?
Yeah, no, I used to actually have a little carry step that I used to carry around the table. So when I needed certain shots, obviously that I couldn't reach, which was the vast majority of shots really, then I used the little step and stepped onto that. And,
so is it a dispensation thing you'd need for that, or...
No, I never used it in competition.
Oh, okay.
I just used to obviously use the rest instead.
Right.
So that was quite an advantage really then when I took up the game further and became better, that rest play was one of my actual strong points of the game because I'd just grown up using it all the time.
Yeah, right. So what got you into it?
Mainly my granddad first of all. And granddad used to watch it a lot, used to play in working men's clubs, local leagues. So I remember just being around at his house watching the telly, and he had it on, and I was just a bit sort of mesmerised at what was going on the TV, and sort of found it fascinating. And I always used to go and say, can we watch snooker? Is there any snooker on? So we did that, and then in the end he got me just a very small, like 3-4 foot table in the living room, and it just started from there. I was never off it.
They were, and maybe it still is on the BBC. Was that the BBC days when?
I mean, I was talking when I was about 4 or 5 here.
Right.
Because we actually lived in the UK then. So we moved to the UK when I was 6, and I'd already been playing on this little table by then. So
yeah, and I think I read somewhere that Jimmy White was a bit of a hero back then. I must say, when I used to watch snooker back in the day, because he was a bit more exuberant, wasn't he?
It was the following Ronnie had. It was
pre-Ronnie, wasn't it?
A bit like Ronnie now. It's such an occasion when he played. He wasn't maybe at the best of his game, but he still had the audience and the following, and it was always just different when he played, and it felt like an occasion. And,
So I know you were playing. I think you won a local tournament when you were 10 here for under 21s.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I first started on a big table when I was 8, about 8 or 9, and I'd already had. So it went from that small table in my granddad's house to a pool table, standard pool table, but I used snooker balls on it because I was driven to the snooker straight away. So played on that, was obviously quite good at it, and then that's when sort of said to my parents, and parents decided that I should maybe have a go on a big table and just see, how I could take to it from there. So did that, went in the local under-17s, under-21s tournaments, just to give it a bash really, and then won them in the first effort. So it's
And do you think the skill was just? Do you think you got that natural ability?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, and I think you need it in a way. It's just, I mean, I had help, but I just picked the cue up and was able to just play the shots. And
do you think that? I mean, I'm interested. Do you think that's like the natural abilities, like understanding angles and?
Because how do you coach? Like, as in, if you say in that sort of sense, because again, it's your sight, your angles. It's kind of like, say, for me, again, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm coming in very little, but do you have coaches? Did you have at that time, or is it just you literally playing, finding out, and said mixed in with that natural ability?
I did have some help. I had some help, over here, but it's a bit hard. It is hard to explain. It's just like I knew how to do it in a way. I just knew I could see the angles and I could see how to make the white go to that red and pot the red. And it's no one really taught me that. It was just there's ways to do it, if you like. There's technical ways, as in hitting what we call through the cue ball, which is different to what certain club players will do, and that's what sort of the coaches. If you're missing certain shots, then you bring the technical element into it, but. Like just setting balls up and potting them, I was pretty much able to do, straight away. And I don't know if that can be coached in a way. I don't know. I think you do need that air of natural ability to start with, because I don't think from the ground up that can really be coached from what I've seen.
I'm interested. I wonder how much, like, subliminally maybe you're picking up just watching it. If you're watching it a lot as well, the stuff you're not aware of maybe, but you're watching the game and then as a young kid and then going to a table and potentially.
Yeah, and there was always that element of where I'd play a shot, and then if the white went somewhere, and I'd try and work out how it went there, and then if it didn't go where I wanted it to, I'd work out what I could do differently to get it to go there. And that's just sort of the initiative I had to do it myself, really.
And if we think about snooker and compare it to, say, chess, or maybe, I guess chess is many steps ahead. I guess if you're on the table playing, how many shots are you typically thinking ahead? Or is it just get on the colour?
No, typically 3 to 4.
Okay.
That's something that like a coach does with you. That's something you learn. I'd known you can't pick that up by yourself. That comes from learning. And classic examples when you're in the club now and you see players. They'll pot a red, for instance, get on the black. There might be one red left on the table, and they've landed the wrong side of that black to get onto that red, and they look at the black and think, I can't get on that red now, and that's the difference. So you've got to at least plan red to colour, which side of the colour you want to be on to get to the ball after that.
Yeah, okay.
So it's definitely 3 shots minimum, really, when you break, and then you're also looking for problems. Is there any problems you've got to sort out, like play cannons to split things up, or.
Okay, yeah.
Because you're straight away planning to at least win the frame at that visit, if not clear up. So you're trying to see when you need to open the pack and
then if you're, say, like, call it snookering each other, is that more just that one shot typically then that you're focused on rather than 2 or 3 ahead? Because it's just like, I need to get this in a safe place.
Yeah. I mean, it can change depending on sort of the situation of the frame. Certainly early on, you're just playing for advantage. So you're trying to force the error. If you have nothing on, then you're trying to play safe, but also try and leave the white in a certain area of the table, so you play up to, again, club player wise, or on the TV, people might think players are just coming off the pack and just sticking the white in up the bulk end, when they're not actually. They're going up there and they're thinking, where would I not want to be when I come to the table? There'll be a certain side which makes the shot more tricky to get back to bulk. So,
okay.
Do you get from that then, in that difference in style of play? Do you get people that are more like aggressive and playing that will always go for that shot against someone who's defensive? Is that like a character trait? When I try and think, there's always people who like going for it, but there's others who probably prefer to try and force that error instead. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, because you'll have the ones you have players who are suited to aggressive play and break building and long pots, and they're confident with it. I think it's more down to players' confidence and what they think or believe their either strength is or what they're capable of. If they don't back themselves to knock the long balls in and play the attacking stuff because they're worried, A, they're not going to pot the ball, or B, leave their opponent in, then they'll try and be more defensive and and try and sort of force the error a lot more than go. But it's that's the sort of decisions you have to make when you in certain situations. When do you go? I suppose that's comes up in other sports maybe if there's don't know, maybe cycling, when you hear about them deciding when to make the shot and go and stuff.
And would you try and set traps to bait them into, say, they're not the greatest long putter? Would you leave positions where leaving them in risk positions, or do you always go, I've got to minimise the risk for them to pot anything? That's the main focus. Yeah,
sometimes. I mean, that's a risk you take if you're luring them into something.
And they get it.
They're going to pot it. They're going to pot one of them, and then it might cost you. It's not sort of what I'm into myself. I don't like to chance it to another player, whether they pot it or not. I like to be the one who's force the error, and then it's more satisfying as well because you're always thinking of the psychological side. So it's a lot more satisfying when you force the error and they've made quite a big error and left you really nice in the balls, and then you want to punish that then because they're going to sit in their chair and reel the fact that they've made that mistake and let you in.
Yeah, and what's that like? Sat in a chair, probably much like these. Do you watch the other player, or do you just zone out when you're not at the table? And what do people typically do, other people that you know of? Sometimes. When I was on the amateur game, I didn't, because we were all sort of similar and I'd know their games and I didn't really want to watch. You hear some of the pros sometimes say, like, you obviously hear the referee calling the score and things, and you hear the balls going in the pockets. So sometimes I'm just trying to rest my eyes a bit and just take my eyes off the lights, off the table, and just think about something else and try and think positive, or think about something that I did well last time I was at the table, and just try and keep in that sort of zone and frame of mind.
Yeah. Is there much of that psychological kind of gameplay? Because someone walking past going, "Oh, that was a bad shot," or, like just under their breath, and well, it's just to try and, like you said, it's when it comes down to it, and you guys know your shots, you played them so much that when I think of like a golf or a dart, something that's quite repetitive in that motion, where, as you said, that belief that, oh, I missed that last time, or something that then comes in your head that gives you that little doubt in the mind. So that you said that's where which I've not really thought about before, that psychological
piece,
part
to
it. But it's important to. I think sometimes it's important to watch, because when they miss, you want to see what they've missed and why they've missed it. Because if it's due to a bit of nerves, you'll see their elbow go out or their shoulder go into the shot, and then you think, okay, you're feeling it a bit, and certain shots they might struggle with, so I might tend to then try and leave that shot more. But you don't want to really get drawn into it, because there's other occasions when sometimes I've not been playing as well as I could, or just days you don't feel it so much, you're not cueing as well. And then you watch your opponent putting a few balls together, and then they're cueing better than you, and you think, I'm up against it here because he's playing better than I am, and that's not a nice thought. So I don't really like to watch when that's going on.
And how much you move frame to frame? Is it, again, that's similar to mind thing? You lose a frame, you just gotta move on and not dwell.
Yeah, you have to, and I think that sorts the top players out from others, really. It is difficult, but you see it too often when players come to the table in the next frame after they've made a huge error in the last one, and you can see it still playing on their minds, and they've taken that into the next frame. And toilet breaks are good for that. You just go out the arena and just go to the loo and talk to yourself a bit and
have a look in the mirror.
Remember why you're there, what you have done well, and again come out and just try and.
We talked about this. It might be on the last podcast with someone of Federer talks about. I think he won 52% of his points, Federer, all throughout his career, which is not, obviously it's just over half. Yeah, his record is unbelievable, and he one of his things he puts it down to is, as soon as you finish your shot, take the good, take the bad, whatever it might be, and move on. And he thinks that ability for him to move on really quickly was something that made him stand out from others, which sounds similar.
Yeah. I think the problem is that you're aware. If you've missed something in a frame that's cost you, you're aware why you've missed it. You can't help it. If it's a technical fault, you felt it. Mm-hmm. So that's hard to shrug, because if you go into the next frame, you think in the back of your mind, well, I've just made a technical error here, and I'm obviously not cueing great because I've made that error, or I'm feeling it, a bit more than I should be. So that is always going to play on your mind. I think that's difficult not to, but. it's just that it's having that strength to, again, tell yourself that, you know, if you've got a situation of a few balls in play, you can clear them, and trying to tell yourself how you do it, because that's how you know. Certainly when I got on the tour, I found it very interesting when I first turned pro, because I was coming up against players and I would watch their breaks, because they'd come to a certain shot and there was 2 or 3 ways to play that shot. Now, not necessarily right or a wrong way, just what suits my game might not suit another player, so he plays it differently. Well, that was quite interesting. To the amount of times then when I go on the practice table after a match and try and set a shot up that I'd seen my opponent do that I hadn't thought of, and then actually played it and thought, I can see why he's done that. That's a better option, you know.
Yeah, right.
So that was quite useful.
So let's talk about getting the card. So you won on European under-21.
Yeah.
What age were you then?
What age? I was 16.
Right. Okay. So and would that? I'd assume that'd be fairly young for
18. Sorry, 18.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that got you, I think, Rookie of the Year award at the National Snooker Awards. Is that right?
No. So Rookie of the Year was awarded by World Snooker at the end of my first year on tour.
Okay.
So
that's just based on your results, your performances to that day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was the highest ranked new player after the first season of play. So that was a nice accolade.
And to get that card, to get on the pro scene, it was the European 21s that you won. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that? Talk about that competition and your expectations going into that, if you can remember.
I remember it. Yeah. Can't forget that.
I'm sure.
So, because I've been playing that tournament a few years, that was one advantage with being on the Isle of Man, really, because you have to qualify for those through your national governing body to represent them. So you can't just enter them yourself. You know, the Isle of Man has to enter the players. So being not only the only under 21, but being technically their top under 21, I was guaranteed the entry every year. You know, so I didn't have to sort of qualify the place. So that allowed me to set my stall out over a few years, really. I'd set my sights on winning that tournament to turn pro. Whereas my mates who were England players, they had to enter a qualifying series every year in England and tour around England for about 5 months and qualify their place. And then the top 4 of the England ranking list for the under-21s then went, because you could send up to 4 players. But the risk was that, you know, if they didn't win that tournament, then the next year they'd have to start all over again and potentially not qualify to go back. So I obviously went through 4 or 5 years of play, getting results, finding what it was all about, just getting familiar with how the events worked, really.
Your folks taking you to the events? Yeah,
parents always. Yeah. It was usually my mum went to that one. That was because it just happened that it was better for her work than my dad's at the time, and it was always her birthday around that time as well. It was always March, so that was handy. And then if I went to anything else later in the year, my dad took me to that one, so it all sort of, which was nice, but it was a bit difficult in a way, because I'd see my England player mates and they'd all travel as one and have a bit more. So I'd try and latch onto them a bit, but it was never.
Are they always at the same place, or do they move around Europe?
No, moved around Europe. So like Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, which was obviously a great experience to travel and see those countries, and and then so I'd had one close shot 2 years before, and that was in Serbia, and I was flying through the tournament that year, got to the semi-finals, and had a really good win in the quarterfinals that year, and then came up against a mate of mine from England, and he just was awesome that day. Beat me quite convinced. I think it was 5-1, and then went on and won the final 6-0 and turned pro. So that was. I thought maybe that was the year when I was starting to think, have I? Even though I was only 16 then, I thought, have I blown it? Already. Those thoughts go through your mind. Because you hear there was some other players who kept knocking on the door through different avenues and never turned pro, and it was they got to the last round to win 7-8 times and never did it, and you just kept thinking, well, they're never going to. That's it now. They've got something in their mental block, and they're just not going to. So I thought, I really don't want to be one who knocks on the door over and over again. You know, I want to get this card and want to win the tournament. Went back the next year. I was actually seeded number 1 for the groups that year because of my semi-final performance the year before. Didn't really have a great tournament. That one went out quite early. And I sort of knew I hadn't maybe prepared as well as I could have done, and just things didn't come together that tournament. So before that tournament, I'd managed to acquire a table of my own at home, which was really good. Again, I'm really fortunate to have it with obviously the family and everything. But we had like an agricultural building in the garden. They converted that into a snooker room for me. So went to one of the tournaments, managed to get one of the tables they were selling off from the tournaments at the end. Had it shipped over here, set up in the barn, and I was able to really knuckle down on that, and that was a massive help because I'd gone up through the ranks of the junior game, not having the conditions. So obviously every time I went out there, I'd have to spend the first sort of day on the practice table, just remembering how they played and getting used to how they played again. So anyway, I'd had a couple of months really on the table where I was just the most disciplined I'd ever been, really, I think, for that tournament. I had a coach over here at the time, Paddy, who I was working with. And I don't know, just the week, 2 weeks before, I was just casually chatting to parents and Paddy and everything, and I just said that I don't know what it is, but this is my tournament this year. I'm going to win this tournament. I'm in the best frame of mind I've ever been in. I remember saying to him, if I don't win it this year, I never will. And I think that's a bit of a daft comment to make, really, when you're only 18. But just the way I was thinking, really. And I sort of don't like saying this because it makes me sound really cocky, but I'd actually made a space in the cabinet for the trophy.
Oh, okay.
Like I told my dad, I said, just move that because the trophy's going to go there. When it'll look nice there, you know.
Nothing wrong with confidence.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. It could be a bit cocky, but so.
Well, you got it right, didn't you?
Yeah,
So
I don't know. I just knew. I mean, tournament didn't go swimmingly. You know, I didn't exactly sail through it, but I just had so much belief that week that it was my week. And
what's it like those last few shots when it's this close? Because again, I'm sure there's a few. Sure, you can think of World Championships where guys have shut the bed, for the want of a better expression. How was it? Or were you just solely, if this is just another frame, got to get through this last frame?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the match that won it was the semi-final. I'd played a German player who was coming up through the ranks pretty well. He's actually on tour now, and I went 4-1 behind him on a first to 5. And I was sat there, but I remember going down to the loo at 4-1 down, and I'd lost a few close frames, and I just thought, you are so much the better player here. You know, if you actually just played as you have been, and as you know you can, you know, you could win 4 frames in a row pretty convincingly. So I came out there, and then it's like I'd done comebacks before, to be honest. That's sort of what I was. I was more of a slow starter and a good finisher than anything else, so didn't really faze me being that far behind. And you know, when you're that far behind, you've probably seen it on the TV where they've commented and said how you free up because you think you're out, you've nothing to lose now. You know, you've made the mistakes to go that far behind, and you might as well just loosen up and let it go. Whereas the other player's on the brink of the final now, you know, his first ever European final, and you need a bit of help on the way. And then he started to twitch a couple and miss a couple of balls he hadn't been missing. I thought, here we go. You know, so managed to get into it, get to 4-2, then got to 4-3, and of course then it's game on, because all of a sudden if I win one more, it's a deciding frame, and he's thinking, God, if he wins one more, you know, I've blown a 4-1 lead to a 1-frame shootout. So I went to 4-all, and just remember just digging in. I really believed, again, I was going to win that match. And I remember it was a really close frame, and then it came down to a blue that I can still remember is probably one of the best shots I've ever played in my career. Didn't really take too long to think about going for it. I was going to go for it, and that was, backed myself to pot it, and I remember it went in, and I remember the noise it made as it hit the back of the pocket, and I came down beautifully on the pink for it. I only needed the pink, and I just dropped the pink in, looked at my mum and gave her a right fist pump in the balcony. And,
Nice.
and that for me was the match in a way.
Yeah, right.
I think there's always, I don't know about other sports, but in snooker, I think there's always one match where you feel the player should have lost, or if you win a tournament, you feel yourself, I should have lost that match. It can be something like last 32 or last 16, but there's always that one match where you got away with it a bit. So I was quite flying high into the final. I knew my opponent, but not that well in terms of playing him. I knew of him, and he was one who was a couple of years younger than me. His first final, and he'd been flying through the tournament, not really troubled, century break after century break, And I was more sort of methodical. I could win frames in one visit, but I could also win the ugly frames, which I think was an advantage. So I gave it quite some thought before going into the final. And I was thinking, how am I going to win this final? Because I thought if it goes into a potting contest, I'm probably not going to beat him, to be honest. If I just get into an all-out long pot, face off with him in that sense, then I'll pretty much lose quite easily, I think. So went in with the match experience that I had and just tried to play on that really and just time up a little bit. And then I remember he left me quite a nice chance in the first frame, and I put the balls away and won it in one visit. So that settled me down quite happily. I think he was expecting to do that, and I'd done that to him. So.
And getting describe it in the trenches, that then you're just making the frame difficult by just keeping the white up the far end and just slowing the whole frame down.
Not pushing the boat out, I think. Okay. Not pushing the boat out.
Taking the limit of risks.
I mean, there's a phrase I think you can use where you either play to win or you play not to lose.
Okay.
And I think I didn't want to play not to lose, because you are going to lose in a bet. It was a best of 11, first to 6. And you have to pot balls. If you're going to win, you've got to pot balls. You can't just play safe all the time. So, but it was weighing up. Just for the first couple of frames, anyway. I thought I wanted to get a lead, and I thought if I don't push the boat out, or if I don't fancy anything, 80-90%, then I'm probably not going to go for it. And I didn't, and just wound him up a little bit, and he just forced a couple of errors, and got a nice lead, and.
Next thing, you're European champion.
Yeah, but it was a bit surreal because I went 5-3 ahead of him on the first to 6. I went 5-1 up on him. I went 5-1 ahead, and so again it was now role reversal from the semi-final. I'm now the one on the brink, controlled the match pretty well. He then had nothing to lose and got in, and he made a century to go 5-2, and then he made a 90 to go 5-3, and I hadn't really seen the table, and I thought, this is it now. He's turned it on, loosened up, and then I thought, really, I can't afford this to go 5-4. To be honest, I thought if it goes 5-4 and he carries on this roll, I still thought he could actually win the match really. So he was then in again on 5-3. He got in, looked like he was going to win the frame again in one visit, and he missed a straight black off the spot, which was frame ball. Played on the next red, didn't really need to, but I can see why, because he was just flowing. He'd made ton 90, was on 60, and he missed, and the 5 reds that were left were just absolutely perfect around the black spot, and there was nothing safe. And I thought, this is it. This is what you've practiced for. Don't shy away from this. If you don't take these balls out and win this match here, you're probably not going to win it. And that's maybe not the best thing to tell yourself. I don't know, but
so you won it on the black.
It worked. I cleared up to the black. Right. Yeah, and won it on the black. And there was a dodgy pink. Pink wasn't in the open so much. It was on the side. But there was not once did I think it was weird. I was in like this zone,
flow state,
zone you get into that you very rarely get into, and it was just all the years of effort, all the years of work, all the sacrifice of me and my parents, and that was my opportunity, and I just was not going to miss.
What a perfect time to be in it.
Never thought of missing.
When you were talking earlier, I was thinking, wonder how often you get into that kind of flow state. And I'm sure the top guys
not much.
Right, okay.
Not much. No, I don't think you do. You hit spells. It's just a bit strange, and I've always said for me it's like a light switch flicks.
Right.
And I've never found out what flicks the light switch. but I know when it's gone, and I know when it does, I'm not going to miss.
Yeah,
it's
right.
weird.
Yeah.
And I just remember, the only thing I remember about it was getting to the blue, and I had to play the blue to get on this slightly tricky pink, and I felt good. I felt composed. I didn't feel nervous. I was shaking a little bit, but that was more adrenaline than anything. But I remember when I struck the ball, like I didn't. You usually feel the tip hit the white, and you usually get like a compression, and you get a feeling of it, which tells you how you've struck it. And I didn't actually feel the tip hit the cue ball. I just had no feeling in my arm, and I just saw the white move and then hit the blue, and I thought, what's happened there? You know, I've never had a feeling like that before. You know, which was obviously I think adrenaline or something like that.
But still caught it correctly.
Yeah, landed perfect on the pink. I had to drop the pink and just come around the back of the black.
Right.
And I did that, and then it just, but like there was none of this, because I'm not a particular fan of it, but there was no like steadying myself before any shots. There was no taking an extra bit, no going to the chair and wiping you. It was just ball after ball, pop, 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 they were going.
Yeah.
And I just wanted it done with. And
like saving that flow state, it's just in the zone, aren't you?
Yeah, and then the contrast to the semi-final, I remember just potting the black and just like no emotion, just.
Oh, right, okay.
I wish I had done. I wish I had just given it something, but just nothing, just went straight up to him, shook his hand, he gave me a hug and all that, and just sat in the chair, and then that was the big let out of breath and emotion, and that was it. And I'd done it then. That was it.
Congratulations. Can I ask, like the tables, are they absolutely wherever you'll play? Will they always play the same, or can you see differences in tables?
No, they're different.
Yeah, right.
Different. Yeah.
The slate on there underneath, and then
yeah, and they're heated as well.
Oh,
which
are
a lot
they?
of people don't realise. So they've got heaters, so it tries to consistently keep the temperature the same. Whatever the room is, whatever atmosphere is, you know, the table is always, and it keeps it dry.
Heaters under or built in under.
They fit under the slate, and then they heat up through the slate and the cloth.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean they're generally all the same. The cloths wear differently as well. That can, if one table's had more play than others, the television table, even at these amateur events, the big European ones, they had a TV style table that had when I won the under 21s, that was in Malta, and it was live on Maltese TV, and they had a commentary box and everything, and so they use different lights, and that makes the table play differently. So your TV table always plays differently to the outside tables, which you've got to be aware of.
Did you get to warm up on it before?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so you get at least a feel for it
before,
Right.
Yeah.
Together?
No,
just
separately,
you
no.
get, okay.
And I played the semi-final. We both played the semi-final on it.
Right.
So that at least we'd had a game on there.
And would that be any other tournament, the same scenario, you get access to the table before you play it?
Not the pro events.
No.
Pro events, there's no warm-up in the arena at all. It's just all on the practice, and they do play differently.
Right.
Practice tables. They're the same table, same cloth and everything, but just it's a different room, so the heat isn't the same. They haven't got the lighting in there.
And so would you say then onto that table, the cushions, does it take a little while just to go? I know the bounce off the cushions, or they
a little
pretty?
bit, a little bit, but that's
because I assume you're playing in mils and centimetres in your head all the time.
Yeah. So and if you just overrun a ball by that fraction, then that can potentially be end of break.
Yeah.
But that's part of the art of it, really. You've got to you learn to adapt, especially like as well. I think it helped being actually on the Isle of Man, because the range of table quality here is vast. So you've got to make some pretty big adjustments from table to table.
What age was your first 147?
It was when I was 13.
Right.
13, yeah.
In a tournament or just?
No, I haven't made a competitive one. No, I've made two against someone.
Right.
In like a practice frame sort of thing.
Yeah, right.
I've never made a competitive one. My highest break was a 144.
Yeah, in fairness, it's
World Amateur Championship.
It's less rare now, but in fairness, it's fairly rare 147 in tournaments. I assume, from what
it's a lot more common now. To be fair, yeah, they're making them pretty often, like one every tournament now.
Oh, okay. Still, I mean, it's common, but still generally rare, isn't it? You think about the amount of games.
Yeah, and
matches.
It's still an achievement.
Yeah,
it's still some of the crowd get a buzz over and you get the applause and everything. But no, it's something I wish I obviously have done. I wish I would have done in competition. But
so you won the tournament. You've got your pro card. Mm-hmm. What happens then? Do you eye up? Does someone, the association, come to you and show you where the next ones are? Do you get an element of choosing what competitions you go into, and as a 18-year-old suddenly be like, wow?
Yeah, so like on the day of winning the tournament, the head of the European Association, obviously after the presentation, everything, he comes to me and then takes me into the players' tournament office and says, right, so you've won this tournament now. I've now informed World Snooker that you're our champion, and we've nominated you for the card. And then World Snooker came back, I think it was the next day actually, and said, congratulations, you've won it. We've accepted the European Association's nomination for you. So from next season, we'll invite you onto the tour. Then you have to go to an induction day, which is actually at the first qualifying event. So because you have to play qualifiers for every tournament, you have to qualify first in usually in the UK. That's at all the pros, because they only take, if it's something like China or the German Masters or any European event, they only take like the last 32 to actually the final venue, and the rest have played off in the UK and then lost. So you go to the induction, they just sit you down, tell you what you're expected to do, what they expect of you as a professional player. And
can I just go back there, just to clarify? Everyone has to qualify for it, or did you say the ranked first 32 get in and then the qualifiers?
No, generally every player will have to qualify in the UK first, and then you play to the last 32, and then
they go
the
to
last
the
32 go to the tournament.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Some occasions, particularly the Chinese events, they hold some matches over, so everyone's still in at round one, but the world champion, the world number one, if that's different to the world champion, and the top two Chinese ranked players, they'll be drawn into round one, but then they get their matches held over to China.
Okay.
So it's played at the venue.
Right. Okay.
And the players who've drawn them get an allowance to go out there and play in case they lose to them first round, obviously. Yeah. So it covers their trip.
Right. Okay.
But generally, everybody's in at round one.
And do you get to pick what tournaments you go to? Do you have?
Well, you can. Yeah, it's a case of the entry system's opened so many weeks before a tournament, and then you get a notification. You get like a portal to enter onto when you're a professional, and then you see what tournaments are available, which ones you want to enter. But to be honest, when you're a new professional, there's no advantage missing tournaments, because you need every ranking point you can get.
Okay.
Because they have a rolling system with the world rankings. So if you're not if you've not achieved a certain level in 2 years, then they relegate you back to amateur status. So you can't afford to miss tournaments, really.
And at that moment you go pro, does a pro entitle you to any money, or is it all winnings at tournaments?
Well, it's different
Other than
now.
Personal sponsors.
Different now, but no, when I did it, no, you didn't. So you had to pay to enter tournaments, and then if you lost in round one, you didn't get a penny. Mm-hmm.
No pressure.
It was quite cutthroat. And the way that it was rough, and the way the draw was done meant you normally always got one of the top 32, if not top 16 players first round.
Right.
And then you expected to obviously beat them to get any money. So it's pretty rough.
And what do they do in that draw? Let's say the top off against the bottom off, for the want of a better expression, because they want them, let's call it the top players to ideally. Yeah.
Some of them are what they call flat draws, but very rarely.
Yeah, right.
Some of them were top 64 against 65 to 128.
Okay. Yeah.
So then there was a bit more pressure on you then, because when they did that type of draw and you got the world number 40, for instance, that's all of a sudden a match you should win. You've got to win those matches, because that's a decent draw.
Yeah, right.
But you're still playing the 40th in the world, and that's that's one you're disappointed if you don't win it.
Yeah, right. And then talk us a bit through your pro journey then, and then how that went.
Yeah, it had its good spells.
Which would imply it had more bad spells, or less enjoyable.
Yeah.
Not what you thought it would be?
To an extent. Yeah, it was everything I thought it would be in a way. But it's something I don't look back too fondly on it, to be honest. And I sort of wish I did, after everything I went through as like a kid, and again we're talking about the sacrifices and the effort and the way we were so driven. And I know I'm not the only person my age who's done what I've done to be talking like this either. It's a very common feeling. But I just feel everything we went through to get on the tour, you almost certainly wish I hadn't done it as early as I did. That's one regret, to be honest. Everyone was so driven to get on the tour too early. and I think it was just a bit too soon. I think I went on. I'd enjoyed the luxury as well with the amateur ranks of being like a seed at these European Junior and World Junior events, and actually being a bit of a presence at those tournaments, and playing on the TV table most times, and getting on the cameras and on the streams and doing interviews, and then seeing other players being on the outside tables and whatever, and coming up against them. They were drawing me, and I was a bad draw for them, and I was winning pretty comfortably. And then you get thrust into the pro ranks, and all of a sudden you're on the outside tables, and you're seeing all the attention being given on the TV table with the high seeds, and it's a bit like you feel a bit sad you don't get that attention, which I realise you've got to earn it. That's part of it, but it's like that took a little bit of sort of getting used to. There was a bit of ambition there then to gain that, because it's like, well, that's what I've got to do to get a piece of that. That's where I want to be. So that's, but it was just obviously a different level as well. In a way, when you're drawing, the likes of the top 16 players, can
you see the difference?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
and if you could put that in for us non-snooker people in a couple of descriptions, what does that look like? More precise. More
precise. The shots they're playing, the ball striking was one thing. Like just the cueing is just on an even different level. Now I thought I struck the ball well and cued well, and knew how to cue. I'd still as a junior, like we'd almost be matching what the pros were doing in a way. Like we'd have deciding frames, and we'd come out and we'd knock along Reading, and we'd make 130 and clear up. But all of a sudden when you go onto the pro ranks, you don't hit the ground running. They're doing that to you in a way, and it's like you feel like saying I can do that, but for some reason you just you don't really. But yeah, just the way that they're striking and
things much
their expectations of the consistency as well. Just the regular balls they're making and precision they're playing with is just a little bit more.
Yeah, less mistakes, would that be?
Less mistakes, yeah.
And how long were you pro for?
2 years.
Right.
So I just did the 2 years.
Right.
So if you didn't get in the top 64 after the 2 years,
back to the European.
You were booted off. Yeah, basically.
Right. And did you not want to go through that cycle again?
Not really. First year I did okay. First year I did all right. I did as well. Well, obviously I was the best rookie, so I did better than anyone that was new. I'd had a couple of good results, which was good. I'd travelled more or less everywhere. I qualified for the Chinese events, played out in China, which is just an unreal experience. And then obviously second year I sort of played with a bit of health issues as well, which didn't help things. I had to miss a couple of tournaments, and so it was hard work. The trouble is as well, I think for the second year, the tour car's on your mind. Then all of a sudden you're not playing for enjoyment anymore. It's a living, and you're not earning very much, so it wasn't a living. And then every tournament you lose, you're a step closer to losing that tour card in a way. And when it's obviously straight knockout tournaments as well, you can go 2, 3, 4 months without winning a match, and that psychologically is damaging. There's nothing you can do about that. It's you start to forget what it's like to win. That's the hard part. So you just end up losing. You do lose basically just belief a bit, because you lose the feeling of winning, and you still think, can I win? I've sort of forgotten the feeling of winning here. How do I do it? And it's so it's harsh. So no, when I came off the 2 years, I say my health wasn't great anyway, and then so I just never looked to really. I entered there's a qualifying school tournament straight after. At the end of a season, so all the relegated pros go into that, and that's the main qualifying route for amateur players to get on the tour. So I did go into that after I came off the tour, but it was very sort of half-hearted, and I did it because I had to do it, but I had no intention really of getting through it and getting back on the tour. So.
And can I ask, we spoke to a lot of sports people, a lot of sports books, and a lot of individuals when they finish their, let's call it a sports career, or their identity is the sport, and they struggle a little bit. Were you Darryl, a snooker player, or was there more to Darryl, and therefore you found it? Let's see. Well, how was that transition away? Because I could name 3 or 4 people I spoke to. They struggled because their identity was this, and it's gone suddenly.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I always saw myself as the snooker player, and especially being on the Isle of Man, that's sort of how I was known, and I think I still am really, but maybe through my business avenue instead now. But I always remember when I was sort of on the tour and everything, if I'd have to go somewhere or ring someone up, I would actually say to them, my name's Darryl, I'm the snooker player, and they go, oh yes, I know you, I've seen you on the, so I had that identity, and obviously you're in the press all the time, aren't you, as well? When you're going well, you're your household name, people know who you are, and journalists want to talk about you and interview, and then when you're not current and you're not winning, then they're not interested. So that side of things goes, but that then loses that image then as well of you in the public domain. But I don't know. I mean, there was always that feeling straight away of I could go back if I wanted to. So I didn't exactly turn my back on it straight away and stop playing, so to speak. And I did have other interests, which helped. And I
suppose that's the question, isn't
it?
Is it just this? Or
no, I was never just snooker. And I don't know. I sort of know some players who've done all right at it, who have always just been snooker. They've had nothing else, which was almost a problem if they have to make it at snooker because they had nothing else, nothing to fall back on, which in a way was a good thing for them. They have made it, but I sort of never took that risk in a way, and I always knew there was options there and something to fall back on if I didn't make it. So maybe that isn't a good thing, because maybe I would have been more driven with the snooker. I don't know, but it was more like I only do things I enjoy, and I just was not. I'd fallen out of love for the game of snooker when I came off the tour. It was like I'd had enough. I was just waiting for that season to finish and to stop playing.
You'd be 20, 21 at this stage.
Yeah,
hard at it really for 10 years. It's a long period of time ultimately.
It's years, but when you say it now, you think 21 to be sort of saying your career's over. It's a bit daft, really, but so no, I know. I mean, I wanted to sort of sort my health out when I came off, and I thought I need to take some time away and just think what I'm going to do. I'd seen some other players do it, where they come back after 5-6 years, towards their late 20s, early 30s, and they're just different people, different players, and they've then excelled and gone better. So, I sort of knew it wasn't the end completely, which I think helped. And then it was just a bit of time adjusting really to the new life.
You mentioned, and listening to something else you were on a while ago, and you talked, and I was quite interested in, you mentioned you were homeschooled, which worked quite well with then practicing in the afternoon. I think on that you mentioned about being around, I don't know whether you quite use the word, but mature beyond your years, I think it was kind of like,
definitely.
Do you think that, out of interest, do you think, is that combination, do you think, and it's just a general question, from part homeschooling, but also then, I guess, in the snooker club you're surrounded by, and only from my own experience, when I was cycling, I was often surrounded by older people, and therefore most people won't say I'm mature beyond my years, far from it. But do you think it was a combination of both those things, the homeschool and being around the adults, or more adults, or do you think you just more, it was just something within you that you were just naturally a bit more mature, if that's the right word?
No, it was definitely being around the adults that made me more mature, and just seeing how they were in general. I think is, I did have sort of mates and people my own age, but I remember I used to make people laugh and my mum laugh, because I used to just say to them, they used to say, you're not out with your mates. They say, oh God, no, they're just so immature, I can't bear it, But yeah, it was just sort of how I was. It was just the way the older generation act, and just the way they talk and the way they think, and that's what I was brought up around, and I just couldn't be a kid really.
Yeah, right.
And I don't really resent that at all. I don't wish I had been. That's.
Well, I'm sure it's that calm head as well will have served you well, and as it will, as we'll talk a bit about motorsport as well. Maybe just a final question on snooker, particularly for me, was what's the backstory? Do you know to the, it suits and rightly so. It should be I compare it maybe to golf's fairly. Compared to football or where it's a bit more, I'm going to use the word rough as probably better words. It's very respectful from what I can see of snooker. You obviously dress very smart. Where's that come from? Because again, we talk about workman's club, and you kind of think a bit more gritty and a bit more, and because I assume that's where snooker came from. I don't know, but
yeah.
Why is it so?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, certainly snooker, as far back as I can remember, was always a gentleman's game, wasn't it? It was
thank
always
you.
dressed.
Far better words. Thank you.
It's a gentleman's game, it's and a respectful game. And I don't know, really, because, I mean, technically snooker clubs, I suppose, back in the day were not really respectable venues. And, when you think of all the drink and the smoke and the gambling and things, I don't really know. But that is one element I like, and I hope is never lost. Never sort of lost, yeah. And it's something I try to drill into any sort of youngster that I see in the game, or any sort of new players to competition or to league or anything like that over here. That there are things expected of you. You still shake hands before a game, and at the end of it, and if you don't, it's ungentlemanly conduct. Whether you want to or not, you have to do it. It's.
I think golfers, I think it's a similar, very gentleman's game. It's like I was talking to someone recently, and like. Cheating is it's like the worst thing ever. Yeah. You just don't do it. No. I'm sure there's bits here, but you just don't do it. No. Obviously, all sports is unwritten rule. You don't cheat, but it's on another level.
Yeah, and it sticks with you. If you do it once and somebody spots it and it gets talking about it, you don't shake that off. Then that's it.
Yeah, because that reminded me, because there was a scandal, wasn't there, in snooker? Maybe there's been a couple where there was match fixing, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I imagine that stuck with whoever that was.
Yeah.
So let's talk motorsport. Okay. So I know you got into you're Clerk now in Derby, up at Derby, and you got through that. And I was interested. And I know you mentioned before we came on air, you're not necessarily involved in the TT side of it now, but you became a sector marshal at a very young age. I was interested in the leadership aspects of that, because again, you're young. I imagine a lot of the marshals around you are older, and they're looking at this. Some fresh-faced youngster, and it's probably at a point semi-intimidating. But again, you've probably been on world stage and on TV, so there's an element of not confidence, but confidence in what you're doing. But where does that leadership come from, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. I think it's one of those things that suits people or it doesn't. I think not everyone's suited to like a managerial position and taking control of situations, but I suppose with the snooker, you're on your own, and you have to be in control, I suppose, of a situation, and there's no one there to do it for you or anything. So, and I think I combine that with the adrenaline, because when you're in those certain positions in motorsport, even authoritative positions, not necessarily as riders, there's adrenaline in certain situations when you're thrown something pretty big to deal with. And I just thrive on it.
Calm under pressure, make decisions under pressure.
Yeah. Like in snooker, I've never shied away from situations like that, clearing up to win that European final. Not everybody has that in them, and I don't think you can train it either. It's just in there. So whenever there's it's almost like the bigger the situation, the better in a way. That's where I come into my own and thrive. Like people think. I think people see me day to day, like even now, as we sit here, just quite laid back and quite placid, and maybe don't think that side is in me. But when I have to do that, they see that different side then, and they see that. And I don't know, it's just always been there, and I've never thought of myself as that person, but you sort of can gauge from the respect that the teams give you when you're dealing with them and things. That obviously they see something that they trust and have that leadership.
And do you think that then as well there's elements of, because obviously again the motorbikes, you're assessing the course, you're assessing a multitude of, I mean, we run the odd bike race, and the amount of risk and assessments and things you have to do and manage people, Marshal, everything. So to do a higher speed event, again, do you think if you look back from your snooker days of, again, I guess shots of risk reward on again, I guess it's similar mentality on a totally different level, but same, you're assessing risk, you're thinking about what could go wrong here.
And you have to be ahead of the game still. So whether, again,
three shots ahead.
The snooker 3 shots ahead, if you've got weather coming in when you're running a race meeting and you're trying to gauge when that's going to hit, because then you've got to make adjustments to how the day's running to go to wet racing or something like that. So you're looking at the programme and thinking what races are coming next. Do you need to juggle something? Do you need to call an early lunch because of this? Or you can't get to that point and then think, I could have started that instead of this, or flipped that round. You've got to have thought about it already.
Yeah, steps ahead.
Well, not everyone does that, and then, as I say, I like to be the one who then says, hang about, why don't we do this in 20 minutes time or something like that? And then, that's a good idea, yeah.
What drew you to the TT?
What
drew you into the motorsport after that?
My dad. Dad was a bike racer. So did circuit racing in the UK before we came here, and then did Southern 100 Manx Grand Prix, as well as Derby, and now runs his own race team and rallies. So that was the motorsport side.
Okay. Do you have a bike? Do you drive? No.
No, I started on a quad when I was about 11 or 12, and I was a lunatic on it. I used to only use 2 wheels on it and go around corners on 2 wheels. Tried a little dirt bike for a bit, but it wasn't for me too much. But I used to help my dad in the paddock when I was like 14, 15. And again, we talk about like snooker starting at 10. If you want to get anywhere in bikes, you have to start when you're 14, 15. Some have already been karting or doing little scrambler bikes before that, but yeah, 14, 15, you should be on a 125 or something like, or a little more like 300s nowadays. You should be on them sort of things and starting to get the experience. So the temptation was there then for me to start. If I was going to start, it would have been then. But obviously with the snooker, there was no way I was going to take the risk and start bike racing when I had my head down in European and World Junior snooker events. And there's no way my mum would have allowed it anyway. Probably my dad wouldn't either, because my dad's always said he would never want to see me racing. So that made the decision. And then as soon as I turned 16, I said to my dad, look, I can't help you in the paddock anymore because I can't be around these bikes too much, because it's just I want to start.
Okay.
And then and then the officiating side of it, marshalling, being the clerk. You're still involved then, aren't you? But you can't race, you can't ride. So that's how I swung it there. I had to keep the fix. I couldn't lose the fix of the bikes. So I went into that side of it, and obviously took to it pretty quickly. So
yeah, it makes sense. And on the business front, tell us a bit about your business.
Yeah, so
not the Manx Cats. We'll get on to that one. The other one.
Yeah, so that came about because. Was it shortly after I'd come off the tour? Maybe a year or two after, I think. About 2 years after. I got the table in the house, or in the barn outside, and it was just literally sat there with a cover on, not being used, and I just had no real sort of thoughts of playing the game, wanting to play the game, no appeal to go on it. And when I'd been on sort of the junior circuit, going around England playing tournaments, and my mum and dad had been over in the UK with me then, we'd gone to these clubs, and said how good it would be to run clubs, because they were just playing in snooker clubs in those days. Obviously there's no facility like it over here, or there wasn't at the time. So I sat down with my mum and dad one day, and sort of just said to them, you remember that idea that we had about having a snooker club? How serious were we? And they were like, well, it would be nice, wouldn't it? Because snooker was in a pretty poor state anyway, with venues and facilities. There was no juniors coming through. They couldn't play anywhere if they wanted to, and so it was dying really. You know, I was 20. What would I have been in 2020? I was 23, 24, and I was the youngest player on the island, I think, at the time. So, so it was a joint thing of doing something for snooker, for trying to do something, trying to give the island something it needed. But also, I had in the back of my mind, this might spur me back on to play a bit, you know, sort of be a face of the venue and have it as my venue and see how that went down. So we started the club. We started looking for somewhere. Obviously, it was very, very difficult to find somewhere because I had a very clear vision of what I wanted. Obviously, the amount of clubs I'd seen in around the UK and the world and venue ideas, I'd had a very clear idea of what I wanted, and finding a building like that was almost impossible, really. It was a compromise. You either take a building you can't do what you want to do with because of it, you know, location, because of accessibility and things, or you go for somewhere that is sort of out on the sticks a bit. But some people always kept telling me who were business minded over here, if you actually do something that's unique and is a one-off, people will use it. You know, you have to have faith that they, as long as it's something that they can't get anywhere else, you know, on the island, and there's a purpose for it, then they'll use it. So we went with it. We said we'll give it a go. You know, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we've tried. I found the building, which was obviously the old Southern Sorting office down in Ronald's Way there. So it was still, I thought, a decent central location because it's not far from Douglas, not far from Peel. You know, and you've got all the southern area as well to accommodate, which had nothing at all hardly. So that was a big help for them. The airport's nearby if ever you looked at bringing events over or international players as such. So went down. The place was in a bit of, you know, a sorry state when we went in, to be fair. But as soon as I walked in the door, I saw the venue. You know, I could picture it straight away. I knew where everything was going to go, how it would work.
So how many tables have you got in there?
We've got 9 snooker tables, 1 American pool table and 4 English pool tables on an upstairs level.
Okay.
We started with 7 snooker, and then I expanded and got another 2 a couple of years ago when it was going okay. So. And
you just rock up? Do you need to be a club member? How do we?
Yes, we do membership. So, okay. But we do it by the year or by the day. So anybody can come down and be a day member. You just sign into the venue with us. And then you pay obviously the table rates, which change regarding on-table quality and things. And then if people decide if they're going to use the venue a lot, then it's cheaper to become a yearly member, because you pay £3 for a day membership every time you're in, or £45 for 12 months. Right. So, you know, if you're 12, 13 times a year.
It's cheap, like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously then there's table rates, you know, like we've got my table in the club now, and it's in its own corner, which is known as my corner of the room. Okay. So, but you can use it. People can play on it. People sort of like to think they're playing on Darryl's table. You know, it's quite a draw to the club. Yeah. It is the most used table in the club. Right. I've got a couple of trophies in there, and my pictures around the table and stuff. So it's a nice little setting. And then we've got another 3 tables that are. So all those 4 tables are professional quality standard. You know, if you watch it on the TV and want to know what it's like to play on those tables, then we've got the setup for you. So I mean, they work out £10 like an hour, right? You know, which if you play with someone else and split it, £5 an hour, it's nothing really for what you're getting. It was a lot for the island in a way, because the island wasn't used to that sort of thing, so it took a bit of getting used to. People still think it's quite expensive on the island who are not used to it, but compared to UK, this is a UK style venue. It's a venue on par with UK and stuff. And it's sort of, it's good. It's got the sort of academy feel to it. On one side of the room, the room's sort of split in the main arena. It's a big arena. We've got the standard club tables, which are, you know, nice big pockets, quite heavy cloth, so they don't need reclothing that often.
So what you play on?
They're £7 an hour. So, you know, a lot more affordable and stuff. And so that's the club side of things, and then you've got the academy style where we have serious players, solo practice, which is done at a reduced rate as well. Right. If you just play on your own. And
I assume there's Isle of Man Championships, are they run? Do they run at your club?
Yeah, so we are the primary host venue for the association's main events, yeah. So
do you still go in them, or do you not?
Yeah,
You do?
Yeah, I do now. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually chairman of the association as well.
All right.
So
in your spare time.
in my spare, yeah.
In your spare time.
But yeah, so no, because like now I'm back playing. This club sort of did what I thought it was, what I was hoping it was going to do. It got me back playing myself. Done a bit of coaching in there. Have quite a good booking list now for coaching in there, which I quite enjoy. And I wasn't really expecting to enjoy that side of things, but been able to give that back to players and show them things they weren't aware of, and that's given me a bit of enjoyment back into the game. And so now I just go to sort of world and European amateur level. So whereas I won the European 21s, I now frequently play in the European men's. And the world men's or world amateur. So you again have to qualify through your national governing body for that. So I still have to play in the Ironman ranking events and try and win the Ironman championships so that I get the guaranteed entry into the tour. If I didn't play them and didn't win them, then I couldn't go.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, so I'm on par with everybody else. You know, I'm no different to anybody else on the island now. So obviously, when you're a pro, you can't play. It's in the constitution. It's amateurs only. So yeah, so I still feel.
And you're back enjoying the sport.
Yeah,
that's good.
I play to enjoy it now. I'm not in a rush to go back on the tour.
Could you see yourself doing that? I'll never say never at this moment.
It's never say never. Some days I still do think it could happen. I have those really good days in tournaments when, you know, like I'll play a tournament and I'll just play as well as I've ever played, and I think, God, if I played like this every day, I'd be back on the tour, you know, and I'd probably do all right on the tour. But it's that weighing up the time I'd need to put into the game to get that back, as well as giving up what I do now and what I enjoy. And then weighing up, could I actually do on the tour what I needed to do to match money-wise, enjoyment-wise, what I'm doing now? And then ultimately, I probably couldn't. Right. So that makes the decision for me, you know. And
then you're also a Mann Cat Sanctuary. Mann Cat Sanctuary.
Mann Cat. Yeah. So I'm general manager there as well. So so I do that. That's my day job.
Right.
Club runs itself, and obviously the family help me run it in the daytime and stuff with one or two staff members. And then I go and spend the evenings in the club and run the club, and that's my downtime. People think, you know, how are you working 12 hours a day? But the club's mine. That's where I want to be. I don't want to be anywhere else on a night. I want to see the players enjoying my facilities and my tables, and knowing I've given that service to them, you know, and things. So it's not work for me. That really.
No, makes sense. And it's the thing I read as well. And is this correct that there's no like gender? It's like on professional golf level, women and men play together. Okay, I don't really watch much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has
that always been the case?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's quite recently changed, I think. But yeah, professional-wise, the women's, they have a separate qualifier to get on the tour, which is sort of not always agreed on by a lot of people. That's one of those grey areas. So, like the winner of the World Women's Championship, gets a place on the tour. You know,
which is men and women.
Which is you don't really see the women compete in the men in the amateur ranks and then win a tour card outright against the amateur men, and then win a tour card. They get on through the women's qualifiers.
And are they competing well?
They're not bad. One of them in particular at the minute.
Who's that?
Bayu Liu, she's called, from Thailand. And then there's actually another Thailand girl. I can't pronounce her surname. She's first name's Mink, M-I-M-K. They are good. I mean, they are competing with the men. They're knocking men out of tournaments, knocking century breaks in, and I think they could go far.
Yeah, I assume it's just a matter of a couple of generations of.
Yeah.
Because I'd assume, based on the sport, there's no reason it shouldn't be a level playing field.
No, it shouldn't.
It's just time.
It shouldn't. I suppose in the old days when they kept apart, they never had the chance to go up against the men and develop that. Whereas now they're competing and obviously having to practice against the men and stuff and whatever.
That's good. So. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate your conversation. Learn a bit more about snooker that I didn't know before. Tempted to even, I say go and play, I'll be awful, but I might swing past the club at some point. But obviously recommend anyone.
Club soon.
Who? Hey?
We'll see you down the club soon.
Yeah. And obviously would recommend anyone go down, because I'm sure you're happy to show them around and show them how to how a use a cue and not rip the cover thing. What's it called? Cloth. Thank you. I didn't learn that much technically, clearly, but thank you. I appreciate your time, Darryl, and congratulations on the Europeans as well. Obviously, very impressive from a small little island that we are. So thanks for your time.
No worries. Thanks.
It's a word out from Marn.
And word out from Matt.
Poor flimsy humans. Don't you wish you were flawless like me? A towering inferno of physical perfection?
I hate to pop your blimp-like ego, but you're not perfect.